is an award-winning professor at the Healthcare Administration program at Trinity University, a top 10 nationally ranked program. He teaches courses in healthcare management, strategic planning, marketing, and human resources management, and he directs the executive program. Dr. Kaissi recently published a book titled Intangibles, The Unexpected Traits of High-Performing Healthcare Leaders. He is an executive coach, and he has a passion for speaking on healthcare leadership, humility and compassion, executive coaching, emotional intelligence, physician leadership, and convenient care models. Please welcome Dr. Amer Kaissi.
All right, how's everyone doing? Thank you for being here. I'm delighted to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun. I would like to start by asking everyone a question. If humble people make the best leaders, why do we fall for charismatic narcissists? Now, what I'm planning to do in the next 10 minutes with you is to break down this question and examine the evidence behind the effectiveness of humble leaders, as well as the effectiveness of charismatic narcissists. But first, some background. I'm a professor, so naturally I'm going to start with some research. In 2014, the Harvard Graduate School of Education interviewed middle school and high school students and asked them, what is the most important thing for you? About 48% said it's achievement, about 30% said it's happiness, and only 22% said it's caring for others. Now, this got me concerned as an educator, that only 1 in 5 Americans, young Americans, believe that caring for others is their highest priority. As an educator, I was concerned because these are the same students that are going to be in my classroom very soon, and that will be leading our organizations in the near future. So I did some more digging, and I realized that researchers have been tracking caring for others, as well as narcissism and empathy among younger Americans, and the evidence is very clear. Narcissism in the last 30 years has been on the rise, and empathy is on the decline. Now, narcissism, as you all know, comes to us from the Greek god Narcissus, who fell in love with his own reflection. The modern-day narcissist is everywhere around us, right? And just for the fun of it, let me share with you some facts about selfies. It takes the average millennial about 7 minutes to take a selfie. That includes taking the picture, retaking it a couple times, because of course the first picture is never perfect, putting it on social media, finding the right caption, finding the right emoji, and finally posting it. That amounts to 1 hour of selfie taking per week, or 26,000 selfies per lifetime. Narcissist doesn't look that bad in comparison, right? Now, before we start panicking, despite this rise in narcissism and decline in empathy among younger Americans, humility is actually making a surprise comeback in business and in leadership. Publications such as the Wall Street Journal, the Harvard Business Review, are making a very strong case for humble leaders. A couple months ago, I published a book on the leadership intangibles, in which I made a strong case for ambitious leaders. And ambitious leaders are those leaders that combine humility with ambition. Now, I made that case that ambitious leaders are the ones that are able to produce the highest performance for their teams and for their organizations. And just like I did in the book, I'm going to make the case today, not based on personal experience or past experience, but rather based on research and on evidence. Now, ambitious, of course, is a made-up word, but you can't really publish a leadership book these days without making up a few words. In the book, I highlight several ambitious leaders, and one of them is Aaron Wisnowski, Chief Strategy Officer at Texas Health Resources, a large health system in Dallas-Fort Worth area. Aaron leads a team of directors, analysts, and strategists, and he has instilled a culture of humility among his team members. Now, being in Texas, they have a cowboy saying, which is everybody ropes and everybody rides. And what that means is it doesn't matter whether you're the senior vice president or the secretary. It doesn't matter whether you're a director or an intern. Everyone does Excel sheets. Everyone erases the board. And everyone serves coffee for everyone. The best idea wins as long as it's backed up by research and evidence. Now, I talked with Aaron when I was doing research for the book, and I asked him, how did you manage to create such a culture? And he said he created a culture of humility based on 4 different pressure points. The first pressure point is to hire humble people. His criteria for hiring people is to have high IQ, high EQ, emotional intelligence, and low ego. The second pressure point is to model the way. Behave in a humble way as a leader, and others will emulate you. The third pressure point is to create a culture where people autocorrect or correct each other. He told me a story about one time when they had a meeting, and after the meeting, his secretary pulled him aside and said, "Hey, Aaron, during that meeting, you were acting like a jerk. Is everything okay?" And finally, his fourth pressure point is coaching his team members, is to provide them with clear and honest feedback, like pulling someone aside and saying, "Hey, man, you're way too intelligent to do that. You know, when you said that, that's how others perceived you. Is this the kind of reputation that you want to have? Because we want you to be successful, but if you keep acting this way, you're not going to last here for long." Now, what most people don't realize is that book after book and study after study has shown that Aaron's approach is the right approach. Humble leaders are able to produce high performance because their employees are happier and more engaged, because their employees are more productive and are likely to stay longer in the organization. Their teams are more collaborative and make more joint decisions, and their organizations have more robust growth. Now, if humble leaders are more effective, what about narcissistic ones? We all know that narcissists tend to be very self-promoting, right? They're very confident. They're entertaining. And the evidence shows that narcissists tend to be chosen more for leadership positions and tend to be promoted more into executive positions. However, the evidence also shows that over time, narcissists are viewed as ineffective leaders by their team members. And the reason for that is because narcissists tend to be so self-centered, so inconsiderate, and they tend to be focused on themselves only, so they're bad team players and they're ineffective managers. Now, what this tells us is that the traits that are needed for leadership emergence are very different than the traits that are needed for leadership effectiveness in the long term. To better understand this, we need to examine a very complex management theory called the chocolate cake model. According to the chocolate cake model, relationship with narcissists are very similar to eating a chocolate cake, a whole chocolate cake. The first few bites of the chocolate cake are so fulfilling and rewarding because of the richness of the texture and the flavor. But as you eat more and more and more of that chocolate cake, that richness of the flavor makes you nauseous. And then as you're finishing that chocolate cake, you'll have a stomach ache and you want to vomit. The same applies to relationship with narcissists. The first few encounters with a narcissist are very entertaining and very exciting because they have these charismatic personalities. But as you work more and more with them, you start having some negative health effects too. So here's what I'm trying to say. The latest evidence shows that leadership turnover at the executive level is at 18% in healthcare for the third straight year. So we need to be very careful in terms of the type of leaders that we are hiring and the type of leaders that we are promoting in our organizations. So my take-home point to you is do not fall in the trap of hiring and promoting charismatic narcissists. Rather, look for those ambitious leaders. Look for those leaders that listen more than they talk. Look for those leaders that ask more questions and make less statements. During an interview, ask people about their previous achievements and notice how they answer. If all they're talking about is, I did this and I did that, that tells you they're a narcissist. However, if they talk about, we achieved this, the team achieved that, then you know that they're a humble leader. So what I'm trying to tell you is look for those individuals that are authentic. Look for those leaders that are teachable. Look for people to hire and promote that are transparent and that are humane. Look for people that are not afraid to say, I made a mistake. I was wrong. I don't know how to do this. I need my team's help. And I can't do this all by myself. In brief, look for ambitious leaders because the evidence is very clear. These are the type of leaders that will take you down the road to high performance. Thank you very much.